Sunday, the 19th of November 2017. Hello and welcome to President Robert Mugabe's address to the nation at State House. My name is Bera. Mthwakazi omuhle sakwamukela kumbiko oqhakathekileyo ovela kumongameli Comrade Robert Mugabe. Manerakanaka muri Zimbabwe tinokuchingamidzayi kumashoko anokhosha kubva kumtungamiri wenyika. So sit back, relax and join us as we follow proceedings here at State House.
Yes. Okay. This is my journalist. Ready? Okay. Fellow Zimbabweans, I address you tonight on the back of a meeting I held today with the nation's Security Forces Command element. This meeting, which was facilitated by a mediating team led by Father Fidelis Mkonori S.J. of the Catholic Church, for an operation made by the Defense Forces in the week that has gone by, and which was triggered by concerns arising from the state of affairs in our country and in the rulings of the party. Whatever the pros and cons of the way they went about registering those concerns, I, as the President of Zimbabwe and as their Commander-in-Chief, do acknowledge the issues they have drawn my attention to, and do believe these were raised in the spirit of honesty and out of deep and patriotic concern for the stability of our nation and for the welfare of our people. As I address you, I'm also aware of a whole range of concerns which has come from you all as citizens of our great country, and who thus deserve our untrammeled attention. Today's meeting with the command element has underscored the need for us to collectively processes that return our nation to normalcy, so all our people can go there unhindered in an environment of perfect peace and security, assured that law and order obtain and prevail as before, and endure into. If there is any one observation made and drawn from events of the past week, it is the unshakable pedestal upon which rests our peace, law and order, amply indicating that as Zimbabweans we are generally a peaceably disposed people, and with a givenness to expressing our grievances and to resolving our differences ourselves, and with a level of dignity, discipline, and restraint so rare to many other nations. This is to be admired. Indeed, such traits form the pith of our national character and personality. Yes, a veritable resource we summon and draw upon in times of vicissitudes. The operation I have alluded to did not amount to a threat to our well-cherished constitutional order, nor was it a challenge to my authority as head of state and government, not even as Commander-in-Chief of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. To the man, the command element remained respectful and comported with the dictates and mores of constitutionalism. True, a few incidents may have occurred here and there, but these are being corrected. I'm happy that throughout the short period, the pillars of state remained functional. Even happier for me, and arising from today's meeting is a strong sense of collegiality, comradeship, now binding the various arms of our security establishment. This should redound to greater peace and offer an abiding sense of security in communities and in our entire nation. Among the issues discussed is that relating to our economy, which, as we all know, is going through a difficult patch. Our great concern to that guide the operations of all its organs. No, that jump. Of greater concern, may I read this again? I beg your pardon. Of greater concern to our commanders are the well-founded fears that the lack of unity and commonness of purpose in both party and government was translating into perceptions of inattentiveness to the economy. Open public spurts between high-ranking officials in the party and government, exacerbated by multiple conflicting messages from both the party and government, made the criticisms leveled against us inescapable. Amidst of all this, flagship projects already adopted by government stood stalled or mired in needless controversies. All this now has to stop as we inaugurate a new work culture and pace which will show a strong sense of purpose and commitment to turning around our economy in terms of our policies. Government remains committed to improving the social and material conditions of the people. Government soon unveil an entrepreneurial skills and business development program which will empower and unleash gainful projects at our growth points and rural areas. Fellow Zimbabweans, we are a nation born out of a protracted struggle for national independence. Our roots lie in that epochal struggle whose goals and ideals must guide our present and structure our future. The tradition of resistance is our collective legacy, whose core tenets must be subscribed by all across generations and across times. Indeed, this too was a great concern for our commanders, who themselves were makers of that revolution, and often at very tender age and at great personal peril. We still have in our various communities veterans of that founding struggle, who might have found the prevailing management of national and party issues quite alienating. This must be corrected without delay, including ensuring that these veterans continue to play central roles in the lives of our nation. All recognize that their participation in the war of liberation exacted lifelong costs, which, whilst hardly repayable, may still be assuaged and ameliorated. In respect of the party and the party issues raised by the commanders and by the general membership of ZANU-PF, there too stand acknowledged. These two stand acknowledged. They have to be attended to with a great sense of urgency. However, I am aware that as a party of liberation, ZANU-PF has over the years written elaborate rules and procedures that guide the operations of all its organs and personnel. Indeed, the current criticism raised against the command element, against it by the command element and some of its members have arisen from a well-founded perception that the party was stretching or even failing in its own rules and procedures. The way forward, thus, cannot be based on vying cliques that ride roughshod over party rules and procedures. There has to be a net to the guiding principles of our party as enshrined in its constitution, which must apply fairly and equitably in all situations and before all members. The era of victimization and arbitrary decisions must be put behind, so as we all embrace a new ethos predicated on the supreme law of our party and nourished by an abiding sense of camaraderie. To all this must be a general recognition that ZANU-PF is a party of traditions and has been served by successive generations bound together by shared ideals and values which must continue to reign supreme in our nation. Hints of intergeneration conflict must be resolved through a harmonized melding of old established players as they embrace and welcome new rules, new ones through a well-defined sense of hierarchy. And indeed, all these matters will be discussed and settled at the forthcoming Congress within the framework of a clear roadmap that seeks to resolve once and for all any omissions or contradictions that have affected our party negatively. The Congress is due in a few weeks from now. I will preside over its processes, which must not be prepossessed by any acts calculated to undermine it or to compromise the outcomes in the eyes of the public. As I conclude this address, I am aware that many developments have occurred in the party or have been championed and done by individuals in the name of the party. Failings of the past and the anger these might have triggered in some quarters, such developments are quite understandable. However, we cannot be guided by bitterness or vengefulness, both of which would not make us any better party members or any better Zimbabweans. Our hallowed policy of reconciliation, which we pronounced in 1980, through which we reached out to those who had occupied and oppressed us for nearly a century, and those we needed fire with in a war, surely cannot be unavailable to our own, both in the party and in our nation. We must learn to forgive and resolve conditions, real or perceived, in a comradely Zimbabwean spirit. I am confident that our whole nation at all levels gets refocused as we put shoulder to the wheel amidst the promising agricultural season or rains. Let us all move forward, reminding ourselves of our wartime mantra. Weneni nebasa. I thank you and good night. Sorry. One or two. I hope we can correct that. It's a long speech. Tatenda. Asante sana. Siyabonga. Okay, thanks.
That was an address to the nation by President Robert Mugabe at State House. Thank you for having joined us. Just leaves me to thank you for having joined us. From myself, Wadzanai Mombela, the entire technical and production crew, will now take you back to our Pocket Hill studios, present viewing on ZBC TV.
Underway.
The ZANU-PF Central Committee met in special session at the party headquarters in Harare on the 19th November 2017 in terms of Article 7, Section 37(7) of the party's constitution. The meeting, having been duly convened, noted the incapacitation of the top leadership of the party to execute their duties as enjoined by the party's constitution, in particular, as enshrined under Article 7, Section 38 thereof, consequent upon which present. After considering recommendations from various provinces, the following was resolved. In my presentation, certainly Comrade Patrick Chinamasa, in terms of the resolutions he has just read, we can't avoid that repetition. 1, having been attended by 201 of the 300 ZANU-PF Central Committee members, the session was declared duly constituted. 2, the Central Committee, on behalf of for their intervention efforts in the internal affairs of the party as the governing party, with the view of bringing normalcy both within the party and government. 3, of the intervention efforts by the Zimbabwe Defense Forces towards bringing normalcy in both party and government again. The unconstitutional of Comrade Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa as Vice President and Second Secretary of ZANU-PF and his expulsion from the party was nullified forthwith. And he was restored to being a member of the Central Committee. 5, the recommendations from provincial coordinating committees, PCCs, suspending and expelling members from the party were nullified, and the Politburo directive directed that the PCC's recommendations for suspensions and expulsions be heard by the National Disciplinary Committee, NDC, were also withdrawn. 6, all members of the Central Committee elected at the 2014 Congress and were subsequently suspended or expelled from the party subsequent to the Congress on the basis of fictitious and fabricated allegations by the G40 cabal were reinstated. 7, members from the provincial councils and who were subsequent to the 2014 Congress have been reinstated. This is from when? What is this? Here. No. The following members of the G40 cabal be expelled from the party. This is the recommendation which was just read. And I'm going to repeat the names so given. 1, Comrade Grace Mugabe. 2, Comrade Pelekezela Mpoko. 3, Comrade Jonathan Moyo. 4, Comrade Xavier Kasukuwere. 5, Comrade Patrick Joao. 6, Comrade Letina Undenge. 7, Comrade Kuzanai Chipanga. 8, Comrade Walter Mzembi. 9, Comrade Paul Chimedza. 10, Comrade Makosini Hlongwane. 11, Comrade Mandi Chimene. 12, Comrade Shadrach Mashayamombe. 13, Comrade Innocent Amandishe. No, this was 8, sorry. 9, Comrade Eunice Sandimoyo. Comrade Araji Mugabe, that's number 9, was removed from the position of President and First Secretary of ZANU-PF by a unanimous vote. 10, Comrade Araji Mugabe should resign forthwith, was removed from the position of President and First Secretary of ZANU-PF by a unanimous vote. 10, Comrade Araji Mugabe should resign forthwith from the position of Head of State of Zimbabwe, and in the event that the resignation will not have been tendered by midday 20th November 27, the ZANU-PF Chief Whip was ordered to institute proceedings for the removal of the President in terms of Section 97 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Amendment number 20. I'm reminded here that on number 8, on the names I've just announced, there is a name which should have been included here, and that is Comrade Ignatius Chombo. Comrade Felegezela Mkoko was removed from the position. Please, when I read, I don't usually enjoy interruptions. Comrade Felegezela Mkoko was removed from the position of Vice President and Second Secretary of ZANU-PF for being divisive, a member of the cabal, protecting criminals, preaching hate speech, and behaving in a manner inconsistent with the office and decorum of the office of Vice President. 12, Comrade Grace Mugabe was removed from the position of Secretary for the Women's League of ZANU-PF for promoting hate speech, divisiveness, and assuming roles and powers not delegated to her office. 13, Comrade Edim Nangagwa was elected as President and First Secretary of ZANU-PF, pending ratification by the Extraordinary Congress scheduled for 12 to 17 December 2017. And was nominated as the party presidential candidate for the 2018 general election. 14, Comrade Edim Nangagwa was nominated to fill in the vacancy of state president in terms of Part 4, Paragraph 14.5 of the 6th schedule of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Amendment number 20. 15, the Central Committee acknowledged the need to discharge its functions as the supreme organ of the party outside Congress in terms of Section 35 under Article 7 of the party constitution, and the Politburo was directed to revert back to its subordinate position as the Secretariat of the Central Committee. The Extraordinary Congress, scheduled for 12 to 17 December 2017, go ahead primarily ratifying the decisions of the Central Committee, in particular, A, ratifying the appointment of Comrade Jim Nangago as the President and First Secretary of ZANU-PF, ratifying the removal of Comrade Mugabe as the President and First Secretary of ZANU-PF. Comrade Chair, this is the end of my first statement, and as well as, in a way, a communique for the members of the press. So I hope you've captured everything correctly. Don't add anything, don't subtract anything. I thank you for that.
Central committee meetings, cabinet meetings, political meetings were recorded. The deliberations of all those organs were recorded by non-spies. And it made it very difficult for members to contribute during debate, knowing very well that they were these renegades. In as much as this is said, it is historic that the party shall never again allow such undemocratic processes and procedures in the conduct of this business. The reinstatement of the Vice President and Second Secretary, Comrades Emerson Dambuzo Nagaga, to his position in the government and the party is indeed a welcome for resolution. The resolution and those in this will not reinvigorate and rejuvenate the party, making it stronger and united. Let's work together to shun regionalism, tribalism, and factionalism, so that the party is strengthened and united as we open a new page in the history of our revolution. Thank you, comrades. Thank you, comrades. I want to thank you once again to the deliberations for this successful, extraordinary session of the Central Committee. May God bless you and thank you very much.
Jubilation at that hall in Harare. Everybody, every ZANU-PF member united against President Robert Mugabe, something that was totally unheard of in the history of ZANU-PF and in the history of Zimbabwe. People saying something negative or anything that does not suit President Robert Mugabe. And as I just heard there, Patrick Chinamasa having announced the new interim committee of the ZANU-PF. And he did mention that if President Robert Mugabe does not resign by noon tomorrow, the chief whip is then ordered to institute proceedings so he can be recalled. We do understand that Parliament will be reconvened on Tuesday to push for a motion of impeachment should President Mugabe fail to resign voluntarily. And Chinamasa also said that Robert Mugabe is recalled as the first secretary and leader of ZANU-PF and is being replaced by Emerson Mnangagwa, and as well as Grace Mugabe has been expelled from the party. Other expulsion also include Patrick Chinamasa, I beg your pardon, Xavier Kasukuwere, and the expulsion from the party are nullified. And it's understood that Joyce Mujuru was also expelled from the party. The jury's still out whether she will be recalled again. Well, we'll keep track of the developments coming up from Harare, and Sophie Mkwena is standing by, but will certainly.
Our people, colleagues, are demanding from us gathered here to show leadership and give effect to their demands for the recall of President and First Secretary of ZANU-PF, Comrade R.G. Mugabe, from his position in the party and government. Or fabricated allegations by the G40 cabal for protection of criminals be and are hereby reinstated.
Further resolution is that members from the lower organs of the party, that is provincial, district and branch councils, were suspended or expelled from the party subsequent to the 2014 Congress be and are hereby reinstated forthwith to the positions they held. That Comrade R.G. Mugabe be and is hereby recalled from the position of President and First Secretary of ZANU-PF forthwith. R.G. Mugabe should resign forthwith from his position as President and Head of State and Government of the Republic of Zimbabwe, and if a resignation has not been tendered by midday tomorrow, the 20th November 2017, the ZANU-PF Chief Whip is ordered to institute proceedings for the recall. That Comrade Pelekezela Mpoko be and is hereby recalled from the position of Vice President and Second Secretary of ZANU-PF for being divisive, a member of the cabal, protecting criminals, preaching hate speech, and behaving in a manner inconsistent with the office and decorum of the office. Sorry? Okay, sorry. Yeah, that Comrade Pelekezela Mpoko be and is hereby recalled from the position of Vice President and Second Secretary of PF, divisive, a member of the criminals, preaching hate speech and behaving in a manner inconsistent with the office and decorum of the office as Vice President. That members of the cabal, namely Comrade Mpoko, Kasugwere, Grace Mugabe, Kudzanai Chipanga, Medza, Makosini Ndlovu, Mandi Chimene, Undenge, Salima Woka, Emu Malinga, Esikazizi, Chi Kasugwere, and I am Kamandishe, be expelled from the party. Sorry, I had left out, it's on my notes here, Shadrach Mashamumbi. That Grace Mugabe, from the position of Secretary for Women's League of ZANU-PF, for promoting hate speech, divisiveness, and roles and powers not delegated to her office. That Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa and is hereby appointed as interim president that Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa be and is hereby appointed as the interim president and first secretary of ZANU-PF, pending ratification by the Extraordinary Congress scheduled for the 12th to the 7th December. That Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa be the party's nominee to be appointed to fill the vacancy of state president in terms of Part 4, Paragraph 14, Subparagraph 5 of the 6th Schedule of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Amendment number 20. Congress, scheduled for the 12th to the 7th December 2017, should proceed for purposes of ratifying the decisions that we have taken this afternoon. In particular, ratifying the appointment of Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa as the President and First Secretary of ZANU-PF. The Congress, Extraordinary Congress, should also ratify the decision we have taken today to recall Comrade R.G. Mugabe as President and First Secretary of ZANU-PF. There were some resolutions which touch on amendments to our party constitution. The first was that we should propose an amendment to our constitution to remove any notion of one center of power. Ago, we abolished the district coordinating committees. We have made a resolution today that this should be restored as an organ in our party constitution. A further resolution was that we should place war veterans in strategic positions in the party and government as long as the requisite qualifications. Okay. An administrative resolution, really, we have a position in our party of a national chairman. This has gone unfilled. We to the members of the cabal who are to be expelled. Please include, which I omitted, Comrade Sandimoyo. Lastly, this Central Committee resolved to acknowledge the roles and assistance given by the frontline states in our liberation struggle. In particular, Botswana, Zambia, Mozambique, Tanzania, and Angola. I thank you.
Thank you, Lord. It is now
The turning point in Zimbabwe's history, or in Zimbabwe's politics, and as you see on the screens right now, the live visuals of the ZANU-PF Central Committee briefing the media shortly after an announcement was made that President Robert Mugabe has been recalled as the party leader. But then President Mugabe still is the president of Zimbabwe, and Parliament will reconvene again on Tuesday to table a motion of impeachment to recall him as the president of the country if he does not step down voluntarily.